hope you are having a beautiful week. Welcome to the live. I have not been live for a few days here. I missed you guys, so we're coming back here. We're going to get back on track with our schedule. So I'm going to update my background here. Give me just a minute and we are gonna get started. So welcome to Aries Rose TV, and if you are not familiar with me, my name is Aries Rose and we have a great show for you lined up tonight over here on this channel. If you're not familiar, we talk about movies, TV shows, pop culture, celebrity news, pretty much anything that I find interesting. I want to come on and talk about it with my Aries crew. So let's talk about the topics that we are going to discuss today. We're going to talk about Young Scooter's funeral. He's a rapper out of Atlanta who lost his life about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks at this point ago. We're also going to talk about Russell Brand. The comedian is facing some serious charges here. Then we have a little bit on his response to those charges that we're going to get into. We're also going to talk about Virginia Giuffre. And she had posted, I want to say about a week or so ago, that she only had 4 days to live. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and whether or not she is still alive. We're also going to talk about Karmelo Anthony, the young teen who is a suspect in the passing of another teen, Austin Metcalf. So we have some updates regarding that. We're going to touch on a little bit of the actor who played the original Dennis the Menace, Jay North. He passed away recently. And that's it for our stories tonight. So you know the drill. If you are a returning Aries crew member, leave hashtag Aries crew in the comments. If you are a first-time watcher, leave first-time watcher in the comments. I want to give you a shout out for stopping by and spending part of your time here with me. And let's go ahead and dive into our first story here. So Young Scooter is a rapper out of Atlanta. And about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, he lost his life on his 39th birthday. Really sad, tragic set of circumstances here. And he recently had a funeral service. I believe it was on Monday or perhaps Tuesday of this week. So we're going to talk a little bit about what was going on with that, but let's add some backstory there. So if you're not familiar with him, and we'll take a pause here for comments. 777, hello, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Logan, how are you? Thank you for coming on. Please let me know if you're on the live. If you can hear me, leave a 1. If you can hear me, leave a 1. Thank you so much. And we'll give a few moments. Thank you for letting me know you can hear me. All right, everyone, I appreciate you. Robbie, welcome. And we got Sentinel17 YT. Thank you. I appreciate you both for letting me know. All right, thank you guys. And I hope you're having a wonderful week. Definitely appreciate you for spending some time here. So for Young Scooter, he was in a... I do appreciate you. I do. Thank you, Logan, for asking. He passed away because he had injured. He had must have cut or maybe severed a major artery in his thigh, and that caused him to bleed out. And so kind of the circumstances that led to that happening, let's get a little backstory on that. So a young woman who turned out to be one of the people that had starred in Baddies, and her name is Demetria Spence. Let me know if you watch the TV show Baddies. Do you watch that? I believe it's on the Zeus network. Let me know if you're familiar with that. Well, this person called the police and said that they saw somebody who was being pretty much assaulted, who was naked, I believe is what they had said, and that they were something actively was going on where that person was being harmed. So the police responded back to that, and they came to the home. And when they came to the home, Young Scooter and another person were in the backyard, and they ended up taking off running. And they weren't per se being pursued by the police from everything that I'm able to see on that, but they still ran. So I'm not sure if it was something that made them think that the police might be there for them that caused them to run, or if they just ran because the police were there. Not 100% sure of those circumstances, but in running away, young Scooter ended up either having his that major artery cut, or somehow it ended up happening with an injury to his femoral, I think artery is what it's called, that's in the thigh, and he ended up passing away from that injury. And he passed away on his 39th birthday. And the Demetria Spence, when she had called in, she said that a woman was being attacked and dragged back inside a home, and that home happened to be the home that Scooter was inside. So understandably, those officers responded there, but they were unable to find any evidence of what the 911 call stated was going on there. So I don't know if this person was intentionally calling to make up a story, or what they were trying to report, or what they saw that made them think that the police needed to be called. But nonetheless, that action happening kind of led to the events that ended up causing young Scooter to lose his life so tragically and unexpectedly. And this person has been charged, Demetria Spence, has been charged with making a bogus emergency call. And she has been released on bond, which was $7,500 was that amount, so that must have been paid, so she can be released. So the family held a funeral service for him recently this week, and they released doves in his honor. Incredibly sad to lose your life on your birthday, and to lose your life so young. 39 is really young. I can tell you, when I was younger, 39 seemed old, but as you get older, those ages don't seem quite as old anymore. So I understand, he still had a whole lot of life to live in him. And I just couldn't imagine what his family and his parents are feeling, because I don't care how old your kids are, that still is very painful to lose your child and to bury your child. So my heart definitely goes out to them, especially because the reason he passed away was completely avoidable. Had that call not have been placed, and whatever chaos or commotion caused him to respond that way, if just certain things didn't happen, he might still be here today. So may he rest in peace. Let me know if you're familiar with Young Scooter, if you listen to his music. If you know him, let me know if you watch The Baddie Show, if you're familiar with Demetria Spence. She may go by a different name on the show versus her government name, but let me know. Let's keep that conversation going in the comments. And now we're going to move on to Russell Brand. So Russell Brand is a comedian. He's a comedian out of the UK, England. And he has recently been charged with some charges relating to sexual assault. So let's get a little bit into that. So Russell Brand denies rape and SA charges against him in London. The comedian discussed some things on his Rumble show, Stay Free with Russell Brand. The charges are from alleged incidents from 1999 to 2004. So this was a while back, almost 21 years now for 2004. I can't believe I'm saying that. 2004 was 21 years ago, but it's true. And Russell says he must have been, quote, captured by some kind of darkness, end quote, because his life was all about adult interactions there. Follow me, we're on YouTube here, so gotta be careful on the wording. Alcohol and substances. According to him, he was shagging everyone. Women were throwing themselves at him. Russell has changed his life since that time and is sober, and he says he did not engage on any activities that were not consensual. So he's denying that he did anything that the other person was not in agreement with or was not okay with. They were, according to him, consenting adults in these acts. He says he will cooperate. He will cooperate and believes that this is only happening because he's spoken out about the deep state. So let me know your thoughts on that. I had heard stories about Russell Brand previously. I think he was married to Katy Perry. Let me know if Russell Brand was married to Katy Perry in the comments. I'm pretty confident right on that. They were married for a few years, and then that relationship didn't end up working out, so they're not together as of right now. I believe Russell has a new family, new relationship he's got going on right now. So he's definitely made some changes in his life, but sometimes things we've done in a prior life come back to haunt us. And I don't know if he is guilty or not in this particular situation, but it's more than one woman, is my understanding, that these charges are stemming from. And, according to him, he was out there doing a lot at one point in time in his life. So we'll see. We're definitely going to keep tabs on this story, see how, everything goes. But I'm very curious to see what you may think about that. Let me know if you think he may have done some things that people did not want to do with him. And I don't know, if he's still considered as popular of a comedian as he was at one point in time, but at one point in time, he was a pretty top comedian. I know he did a lot of different movies in Hollywood, and I seen him in a lot of different, places and stuff. So he had a relatively high profile at one point in time in the United States. So that's how he kind of came on my radar, besides being associated with Katy Perry. And so let's see kind of where this goes. But sometimes with the access to more things, you get the impression that you can do more than you really can do. And maybe this is one of those situations there. Let's keep that conversation going. And then we have Virginia Giuffre. So she was an accuser of Jeffrey Epstein, to say that he had done things with her and or trafficked her for adult purposes when she was a minor, to do things with people. And she did have a lawsuit, a pretty high profile lawsuit, that was against Prince Andrew from England there. He denied that any inappropriateness took place between him and Virginia when she was a minor, but she says that they did have biblical interactions, if you follow what I'm talking about. And she was under 18 at the time, and it caused a big scandal. Prince Andrew ended up losing his title, so he is no longer a prince, but I think that's just more commonly what he's known by here. So it's still used for him, but I don't think he's technically a prince anymore. I believe it was his mom that took that title away. And it was a pretty embarrassing interview he had did. I want to say it was with the BBC. This was a few years back when these allegations were made public, and it was known that she was suing him for that, and he was trying to deny that anything took place. But she did have a photo that showed he was photographed with her and Ghislaine Maxwell, and it was allegedly Jeffrey Epstein who took that photo. So it places him in that area, in that vicinity of knowing these people, being around them, and being around her. So, that's probably what led to his mother, the queen at the time, saying, I think you may need to pull back from some royal duties here. This is not a good look for us. Well, she lives in Australia. She had a family. She was married and she had children. It looks like she's going through a tough time in her life right now. She's getting divorced from her husband, and she had posted on Instagram that she only had 4 days to live, that she was having renal failure. And she posted up a picture where she was pretty bruised down one side of her face, kind of like around her eye and her cheek here, and around the jawbone and on her nose. And it looked pretty bad, saying that she was in a vehicle accident, that the vehicle she was in was struck by a school bus. However, parents of the children that were on the school bus said it wasn't as big of a crash as she's trying to make it seem. It was more of a minor accident. That's also what the Australian authorities said. So there were some people questioning whether or not she had 4 days to live. And if you only have 4 days to live, which this was according to her, why are you posting that on social media? It just seems like an odd thing to do. Well, let's talk a little bit about whether or not she is still alive. So Virginia Giuffre has been released from a hospital almost a week after claiming she only had 4 days to live. She was involved in a car accident after the vehicle she was in was struck by a school bus. She was saying the accident was pretty bad, but there were conflicting reports on whether it was a minor or major accident. Nonetheless, on her social media, she posted how she wants to see her children one more time. So I don't know if she was doing that as a ploy to get attention from her estranged husband or ex-husband. I'm not sure where they are at in the divorce process so that she could see her kids more. I'm not sure of all the details of what's going on there, but it does make me question what the motivation was or why she did that. And if saying, I want to see my kids one more time, I just almost wonder if maybe she's not able to see her kids on a regular basis and that was a way of trying to get to them to play up on sympathy. Now, she was involved in a car accident, just questionable if it was as bad as she was stating it was. And obviously, she's still alive, so that prediction of only having 4 days to live did not seem accurate. It's what's known right now. There's not an immediate sense that she's going to be passing away or has a short time to live based on any known information at this time. And she was recently released and escorted out of the Sir Charles Gardner Hospital in Perth, according to West Australian. So we'll keep an eye out on this story, see if there's any more information that comes out. I'm definitely curious if she ever gets interviewed or discusses more about what her motivation was for even making that statement or doing that Instagram post. We'll take a little pause here. If you are on the live, thank you so much for being here. Let me know if you are a first-time watcher by saying first-time watcher in the comments. I want to give you a shout out. Let me know if you are part of the Aries crew by saying hashtag Aries crew and give you a shout out as well. And if you are not a part of the Aries crew, it's free to join. We have fun over here. We'd love to have you a part of it. All you got to do is hit that subscription button and make sure you hit that notification bell so you can find out every time I go live, post videos, post shorts, and post on the community page. And make sure you like the video. It means a whole lot. It's a free way to support the channel and it helps get us out there to some more eyes. We're trying to get to 1,800 subscribers by summer. So any support is greatly appreciated. And now we're going to go on to our next story about Karmelo Anthony, not the basketball player, but a young student out in Frisco, Texas. So this story came on my radar because I had seen it on TMZ. This young man was out at a track meet in Frisco, Texas, and it was it seems like it was more than one school. So I think it was a few schools that were all there, and it was starting to rain. And he had went underneath a tent that was for a different school than the school he went to. And by going underneath this tent, it just kind of kicked off, sadly, a tragic, ending to this situation for one team that was involved. So he went underneath this tent, and as I understand it right now, it was to steer clear of the rain because it was raining out there. So it was just a way to find shelter. And it's one of those little pop-up, tents that you put up, the little canopy kind of things where you can have a place to kind of get some shelter from the sun. Obviously, if it's raining, all that good stuff, you can kind of be under there, but it's open on the sides. It's just closed up on the top. And Austin Metcalf and his twin brother, Hunter Metcalf, saw Karmelo Anthony sitting underneath this tent. And allegedly, this is according to the accounting from Hunter, he wanted, they, questioned him, why are you sitting here? Probably on some young, childish, this is my school's tent. Why are you sitting over here? You don't go to my school kind of stuff. But that part I'm adding in. Hunter says that they asked him to move. Now, knowing how young teenage boys interact, I don't know if it was a kind or respectful exchange that, took place initially there, but that's what he said. And he said then Karmelo started talking reckless and he was being disrespectful. And then Austin told him, well, you're going to move. And he's like, well, make me. And then I guess Austin goes to either punch him, touch him in some way, shape, or form that then causes Karmelo to go into his backpack and he brings out a knife and he stabs Austin. And unfortunately, Austin Metcalf lost his life, only 17 years old. And his twin brother, saw him. I don't know if he saw him get stabbed, but he saw him after he was, stabbed, and I'm sure he was in pain. And my heart does go out to that family because that's very sad. First of all, he's not going to get a chance to graduate from high school. You're losing your child, and you're losing your child when they're a child, not even 18 yet. You're losing your child at a track meet. Very sad, unexpected, not what you probably would be thinking would be necessarily a dangerous place, other than maybe falling on the track when you're running, but not because you're probably going to lose your life. I just don't think that that's a place anybody expected for that to happen. So with that being said, I don't know that any interaction or anything that took place between those boys required Austin to lose his life. And I do feel very sad for his twin who saw his, essentially saw his brother passing away because, twins have a special bond. And I'm sure that's something that's going to be with him for his whole entire life. I just don't know how you kind of get that out of your mind. I'm sure he'll learn over time how to be able to function, but it's still a very traumatic experience. So I want to acknowledge that, I feel bad that they lost their child. I feel bad for everybody involved in the situation. But the question that has come out of that is whether or not Karmelo Anthony was the aggressor or if people were being aggressive towards him and his action was in self-defense. So kind of when you hear the story from the way that it's told by Hunter, it seems like Karmelo was more of the aggressive person or escalated it. But there are conflicting reports saying that the boys were trying to be aggressive and physically aggressive towards Karmelo, which I can kind of see. I was like, I could kind of see that. Now, I don't know any of the people involved, but I can see teenagers when you're at school, sports, so you got that rivalry, you feel real territorial, like, it's my school, it's our stuff, why are you over here? So I could see it just being unnecessarily tense, heated exchange, but the reason for it was, very petty, and I don't think it was one that really ever should have escalated to the point it did, but unfortunately it did. Well, the family for Carmelo Anthony wanted to make sure that he was represented in these stories that are being told as well for the holistic version and view of him. And his father's saying he's never been in trouble before. He has a 3.7 GPA. He's a good student and he also has a job, while he's in school. So it seems like all roads are leading to, Carmelo was a relatively good young man who hadn't been into any trouble before. He was allegedly carrying this knife for protection. Don't know that he went to the track meet with the intent to use that, but had that there in case a situation arose where that might be needed here. And let's read a little bit more about the donations that he's been able to get in. So Austin Metcalf's family has a GoFundMe that's reached, I want to say about maybe 200,000 plus from donations that people have given in to the family for their situation, probably to help cover with funeral costs and things along that line, having to come up for unexpectedly having to bury your child versus getting them ready for a graduation in their senior year. And Carmelo Anthony also has a fund that has been raising money as well. Carmelo Anthony has received thousands of donations towards his fund for his defense. The teen was involved in a fatal stabbing. Quote, as a family of faith, end quote, we are deeply grateful for all of your support during this trying time. Your prayers and assistance mean more to us now, more than ever, end quote. And that's a quote from Carmelo Anthony's family there in regards to the donations that they have received from people that want to support him. I believe it's going to be going towards his defense that's going to be needed for trial if he is formally charged with that. The family was looking to raise $200,000 and so far have raised $155,848. That was at the time that I read this article, which was a few days ago, so it may be even higher at this point. It was set under the Give Send Go by close. It was set up under Give Send Go. I'm not familiar with that, but maybe it must be another form of GoFundMe where you can give donations by close relatives of Carmelo. Sadly, a young teen, Austin Metcalf, lost his life. However, the teen's father of the murder suspect, Carmelo, says his son was not the aggressor. Carmelo is being charged with first-degree felony murder. The incident occurred at the University Interscholastic Leads District 11-5A Championship in Frisco, Texas. Anthony's attorney, Derek Walpole, told KXAS TV he is requesting a hearing to lower the $1 million bond that's been set for Karmelo Anthony. Austin Metcalf's family has also received $250,000 in donations since the incident. So we're going to be keeping an eye out on that. I'm definitely following this story. Let me know if you have any thoughts in the comments on the Karmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf situation here. Definitely want to keep that conversation going. Prayers to both families here. Very sad situation that's changed the lives of, well, 3 people for sure. Karmelo, Hunter Metcalf, and Austin Metcalf will never be the same people that they were, one lost their life prior to that incident occurring. And if there's anything that I hope that comes out of this, one, it's not a need to escalate to any level that may cause somebody to lose their life. You have the right to defend yourself. If you feel your life is threatened and you are in physical, you are physically being harmed, you do have the right to defend yourself. But I just don't believe anybody should lose their life unless your life, depends on you. You have to make a choice. That's one thing. But if it's just over arguments over something as petty as where to sit, we got to find other resolutions on how to work with each other and deal with each other that don't cause this. And that's what I'm hoping is to, teens get some other ways to, some other tools on how to diffuse the situation with each other instead of escalating it. And we'll see what comes from this for sure. And now the actor that played the original Dennis the Menace. So if you are familiar with Dennis the Menace, I know the show, but I also like to watch a lot of classic TV. So that's why I am familiar. That actor that played Dennis the Menace in the 1960 series was Jay North, and he's passed away after a battle with colorectal, cancer. And his health started to deteriorate over the past month, and he was surrounded by family, his wife Cindy and her daughters from her previous marriage. And his wife had gathered letters from fans and gave them to him over Christmas, which she said he was thrilled about. And I'm sure, especially when you're not feeling well, and your life is coming to an end, I can imagine it's very uplifting to still hear from people that tell you, how you impacted their childhood or how you impacted their life or how much they enjoyed you on a show, especially when your show was on in the 60s, and to still get love all the way up until you pass away in 2025 is amazing, especially because there's probably a whole lot of people that never even heard of the show or seen him in that show. And that's all we have for you tonight. We will be back on live tomorrow. We're getting back on track here, so check out our show for Friday night. We're also going to be live on the weekend. I've seen 3 movies that I want to make sure that I talk about here. And we're going to do a review for Death of a Unicorn. We're going to do a review for The Woman in the Yard. We're also going to do a review on the movie Drop. So stay tuned for those. If you like movies, I definitely love movies. Make sure you are on those lives. We're going to kind of unpack those movies, talk about my different thoughts and parts of the movie that stood out to me. So definitely want to have you on there if you enjoy talking about entertainment news. If you have not already done so, I would appreciate if you could just hit that like button. It doesn't cost you anything to support the channel, and it means a lot, and it goes a long way. Share this live out with family and friends. And if you haven't already done so, hit that subscription button. We'd love to have you a part of the Aries crew. We have fun over here. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you later.